All right. Nice to meet you, Nadim. Thank you so much for talking about what you're building today. I'm really excited to have this conversation.
Thank you very much for having me, Joyce, and really appreciate that. Really looking forward.
So tell me a little bit about why you started Mindfuel. We had a little bit conversation about that, but I think it's a very interesting background that
Mhm.
you bring and that you bring to Mindfuel.
Thank you so much. I mean, my background, or the reason why we founded Mindfuel also, of course, relates a little bit to my personal story. I worked in data and AI my entire business career. So I studied computer science and then I joined a consultancy for back like over a decade ago, and here in Germany. So I'm located in Europe. And my job back in the days was to develop data science use cases for major enterprises. So really hands-on. I was sitting there and I was developing algorithms, machine learning models, all that stuff. And I grew through my career and I was shifting a little bit more from hands-on data science to something called data strategy and AI strategy, like what is important when you're building up data teams or AI teams and how can these teams perform and so on and so forth. And then there was a certain moment in my career where one of my customers, it was a C-level stakeholder. So he was a group chief technology officer of a major enterprise here in Europe. He came back to me and said, Nadim, now we've spent so much money into data and AI. We've invested so much money also into setting up this team here. Back in the days, they have hired more than 200 headcounts purely just for machine learning. When do I get my money back? So he was asking like when do we get the returns on all of these investments? So how do we make sure that it's really creating added value for the company? And I wished back in the days that I would have had a simple answer for like, executive like or senior executive like, three sentences explaining to him, this is the reason why we've invested, this is the expected return, and this is why data and AI matters. But obviously, I didn't have this answer. So I was so frustrated that I couldn't answer this question properly, so that I've decided to solve that issue or to address that issue. I found out that this is really an issue for all organizations, especially for enterprises. They are invest heavily into data and AI, but they're all struggling of like justifying the contribution or to visualizing the impact and all of that stuff. And so I decided to go this direction and I founded Mindfield together with my co-founder. And our solution, which we had in mind, was classical product management, like digital product management, has somehow the same challenges when they're building a new product. If they want to bring a product into the market, they have to justify, they have to explain all the investments, they develop a lot. And my co-founder, Max, he has been one of the greatest digital product managers in Europe. So we said, okay, if we would combine my data expertise and his product management expertise, maybe this could be a solution for the problem. So we founded Mindfuel. I would assume the very first data product management company in the world due to the fact that we started really early. So we founded in 2019, and we called it data product management more from a coincidence that my expertise was data and his was product management, and we had no better idea how to call it. So we had a good guess back in the days.
I love that story. And I want to come back to what you talked about with respect to working with C-level stakeholders who have
Yes.
a very strong priority in using AI, machine learning, data science to help their business stay competitive and to accelerate growth. So I want to come back to that. But what strikes me as interesting when we first met is exactly what you said, is that you were early. You are early. And I think a lot of the companies focus on AI infrastructure, the compute uh, capabilities, the more technical layers of in the stack. Whereas when we first met, what I thought was this is enablement. This is really helping these organizations to be in a position to adopt these new technologies because they have to explain, first of all, why they are pursuing these new technology for what use cases and for what outcome. So can you share a little bit more about how that enablement
Hmm.
works and whether you are seeing progress in companies or you're
Yeah.
still seeing, a typical kind of organization uh, ability to absorb new technology, new innovation, a bit disorganized with a lot of
Hmm.
distance.
Hmm. I mean, this is you laid the perfect foundation for a conversation in this direction, and also for a discussion, because so we launched Mindfuel, or we launched Delight, is the name of our product, in the US also this year. And I've been to Silicon Valley, and I had a lot of discussions about that data and AI is not contributing business value, and 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 everyone was stating, yeah, because we need another technology, we need another infrastructure, so we need and I stated, sorry, everyone, but we have this technology available. It's not a technology problem anymore. So it is not the problem that we don't have the right technology at hand. The problem is that we don't know which use cases at scale we are unlocking with these technologies to create the added revenue of multi-million dollars. So because it is nice to explore AI and all of that stuff in a, I don't know, prototype or MVP or in a first approach of a use case, but what we are looking for are these multi-million opportunities. So when instead of thinking bottom up from the infrastructure and the technology and then the machine learning models and all that stuff, I postulate, why don't we start thinking from top down, from the business side of the house, or from the stakeholders' importances side of the house? So what are these business opportunities in my organization where we truly believe that AI can create an added value? And then we model, or then we design it from the business opportunity, because we are just as good with our technologies as we can unlock the business value. So this is the statement we have to take at that point in time. So if you ask me, how do I see, or how do I observe the market and also the development of organizations, um, I think it truly depends on how organizations are structured. It depends a little bit where data and AI is also allocated in the organization. If it's more part of IT, then, or of IT departments, we see, or I observe, still a little bit hesitance, because in general there is a gap between business and IT. So, and
Mm.
don't get me wrong, I'm an IT person. Like I mean, I study computer science. I have a heart for IT, but we've seen this overall technologies that we always struggle in collaborating, or what we call it also at Mindfield, there's a business AI gap, or a gap between business and data, and we have to bridge that. We have to help the business to understand their needs, their problems, their priorities. And this is our job as an IT department or as a data organization, to serve them achieving their goals. And all the organizations who have understood this kind of principle or understood this kind of setting, they are super successful in applying technology in general. And they are also faster in applying AI, because they not just do AI for the sake of AI, because it is a hype at the moment. It is a technology which provides a lot of potential. And everyone has it in their pocket today on their phones, and can consume, or can ask ChatGPT for a solution on a problem. But so all the organizations who have understood that we have to bridge that gap are super fast and accelerate.
So it's interesting to talk about bridging that gap between
Hmm.
IT and business, or data science team and business. And I have a lot of these
Hmm.
discussions as well. Who are the people who are bridging this gap in this organization? Because your clients are large enterprises. You
Correct.
have large enterprise as customers. So are these the chief data officers? Are these the
Hmm.
product managers now emerging
Hmm.
specifically
Hmm.
for AI products? Are these
Hmm.
chief technology officers? Who are these
Hmm.
personas that you think or you have worked with who are really in the right positions or have the right platforms to
Hmm.
bridge that gap?
Hmm. Um, the responsibility for bridging that gap lies with the chief data officer or with the head of data and analytics. So the business is stated as their customer, right? So the chief data officer has typically the responsibility to unlock the value for them. And now it depends a little bit on the size of the data organization. So some of our customers have established a dedicated role, which is called, as you stated, the data product manager, who really operates at this interface between business and data. We often see on an operational level that the business analyst is even covering that, or a product owner is covering that. Um, but so the most successful ones, they have established a dedicated role who's taking care of what we call the portfolio of assets, both directions, the use cases and the data products. So either the head of data, chief data officer is managing the portfolio him or herself, or they have allocated a dedicated portfolio management role.
Interesting.
And, and you can imagine, so all of these organizations typically have something like a use case Excel spreadsheet. And here, so you know that one, like with all where all the use cases are listed, and then
Yeah.
you have 80
It's like
columns with
a lot of the startups, your biggest competitor is spreadsheets and Excel files
absolutely,
everywhere.
absolutely. So imagine this massive Excel spreadsheet, all the data use cases, all the AI use cases, and then the 80 columns with all the characteristics, the business impact, and the technology, and the feasibility, and which data goes into the use case. So a huge portfolio mirrored in Excel. And what then everyone is asking, what is the value of this portfolio? So you could ask the same, if like a little bit compared to stocks, right? If you have a stock portfolio, you also ask yourself, okay, what is the value of this portfolio? So you can do the same with data use cases. So you've been asked, what is the value of this portfolio? So how much money do we make from that number of use cases, and how much money do we have to invest to get the value out of it? And this is where, if you're coming to a scale of, I don't know, 10, 15, 20, 30 use cases actively managed, then organizations establish a role. Either it's with the data product manager or a portfolio manager. With other organization, it lies with the chief data officer or head of data. So the one who's responsible for delivering the value.
Got it. Well, I think this is a great segue to actually do a quick demo, if you don't mind, Nadine,
Mm-hmm,
to kind of
mm-hmm,
show what you talked about merging the best practices of product
mm-hmm,
management, enablement,
mm-hmm,
and quantification
mm-hmm,
of value
mm-hmm,
of these emerging projects into
mm-hmm,
one platform.
mm-hmm. No, happy to do so. And thank you for the chance to presenting. So I just quickly share my screen and you can tell me if you see it, right?
Yes.
Okay, cool. So I keep it short, I keep it simple, I keep it easy. So imagine you have this use case Excel spreadsheet we were just talking about, right?
Yeah.
And welcome to Delight. Delight is our software, our what we call a data product management software. And in our application, use cases are so-called opportunities. So we truly think in business opportunities. So business is providing opportunities by which we think we can gain value from. And I start here with the mission control. And in the mission control, we see in my demo tenant here, it's an e-commerce shop, how many opportunities we have collected among all different departments, in this case, 14. Then we can state, okay, how big is the value potential of these opportunities? So we're talking about 40 million euros. How much is realized, and by how many active data products are we unlocking that value? So the idea is, and you can see this here on the left side, the opportunity is the use case with the problem description, all that stuff. We will quickly jump into one. And then I have a portfolio of data products categorized in different type of asset classes. And then we can illustrate which asset is connected to which opportunity. So if we quickly check that out, we jump into our portfolio of opportunities, and I open one opportunity from marketing or finance and controlling, in this case, called Steer the Marketing with Customer Lifetime Value. It has a description of the opportunity. We can qualify the value potential of this. So how much value do we think can we gain from that opportunity? So this is a conversation the data product manager or the head of data has together with the business function, saying, okay, what is the potential? We are using a lot of AI ourselves in Delight. So, for example, we have a co-pilot called Lumo, and Lumo helps the business to write the opportunity. And Lumo also helps the business to justify the value potential. So Lumo is your co-pilot helping you to illustrate what could be the value potential behind this business problem. We want to,
I like how you embedded Gen AI in this now because I didn't see this last time.
yeah, no, so I can tell you, so we implement AI everywhere among the applications. So wherever you are in the application, you can always ask Lumo for everything, for support. You can also ask Lumo in a separate application called Spark. Spark is helping you to identify new opportunities. It's an ideation tool based on AI. So if you work in a specific industry, in a specific department, you can ask Spark and they help you to identify business opportunities, including the value potential. And at the end of the
The
day,
value qualification before we move on, Nadim,
mhm,
you showed that specific example, 4.5 million. And typically, the organizations build business cases. And
yeah.
I see on the bottom here, there is a summary of the logic of how they sort of thought about this business case.
hmm So, um, exactly, this is the logic behind how they thought about this business case. This is now the notes which we gathered from that opportunity, but we also have an AI dedicated for qualifying this value. So, I mean, I don't want to crash too much now the demo, but what you can see here is a value analyzer which takes the description of the opportunity. And now what happens is in the background, um, we start to calculate the value drivers of this opportunity, extracting assumptions based on the description. So it is now creating assumptions. And then Lumo helps you to write the first version of the business case. You see, you can edit the baseline, you can edit the assumptions, and then it calculates your business case over 3 years for every single use case. So our goal is really to enable the business and data organization to identify the right value potential for a use case. Because if we have this value potential, then we can do the following. For the very first time in data history, from my point of view, we can map the opportunity against your data product portfolio. And you see the opportunity has a value potential of 4.5 million, and we inheriting this value now down the business lineage, as we call it. So this is an analytical product, a report. This is an analytical product, a machine learning model, as well as here. And this is an analytical product, the data asset, so the data set which goes into that model. So the revenue data set is a data product. This are just the revenue data. And if I open this data set now, we can see the data set to which opportunities it is connected. And it's aggregating the value potential because it is inheriting the value. So we can, for the very first time, explain to a senior executive, dear Martin, this was the name of my executive back in the days, this is the reason why we invest into this revenue data set, why we're keeping engineering efforts high, why we have maintenance efforts, why we have transformation efforts. Because if this data set is broken, we are losing value potential of 14.5 million euros. And I can take this all the way down to the technical platform saying Databricks. This is the reason why we invest in Databricks. This is why we migrate. This is why XYZ. Because in the connection of Databricks, we see the lineage. And to the lineage, we are connected with 17 different opportunities. So if Databricks is not working, Martin, then we have an issue of a high risk of value potential loss.
And when you first showed me this, I was like, wow, right? Because like I was saying that this essentially is creating traceability from the front of
Absolutely.
the house to the back of the house.
Yeah.
In my words, right? The back of the house are the infrastructure, the data store, the data marts, the data infrastructure. And then the middle of the house is these data products and these models that enable the front of the house that generate value, generate insights, to allow people to make these decisions. And you have built something that connect all of this. And so to me, do you see your clients using this as a management tool, as a communication platform, as a compliance?
Mm-hmm.
I see all of
They,
them,
they,
but what's the primary
yeah,
use today?
the primary use case is number one, transparency and overview. So keeping really like having the active assets under management. And if we look back into the portfolio overview, so number one use case is transparency and overview for which opportunities do I have and which products do I have, because this transparency often lacks. Number two is if I can, I just show you one thing. I can group, for example, my opportunities according to strategic goals. So business goals. So now we see one of our strategic goals of the organization is increase customer satisfaction. The opportunities are mapped against the strategic goal, and for we can aggregate the value potential for this strategic goal thanks to the opportunities we have mapped against it. So they use it for communication, telling their leadership, dear leadership team, our strategic pillar is we want to increase customer satisfaction. These are the opportunities we've collected with the different business teams, and the aggregated value is $10 million. So wherever you are in the application within Delight, you can always explain and visualize and communicate the value potential. And I think overview, transparency, communication, and then next step is also alignment on budgets and costs.
Yeah.
Because you can then work, you can streamline the investments, you can streamline the costs, you can prioritize them. On the assets themselves, you can start assessing them based on, I don't know, different feasibility assessments, UI assessments, so you can do risk management with them. So if you have an active portfolio management ongoing, you have a lot of different use cases you can unlock. The most promising use case we also have, and then I close the demo. Which asset do I have in my portfolio which is not connected to an opportunity?
Yeah.
So if an asset is not connected to an opportunity, you are operating an asset which doesn't create value. So
Right.
you have to stand the question, why do we have this asset? Who is running it? Why do we have built this dashboard? For whom? What is the potential value
Right.
of it?
When you say asset, it's data asset, analytics, right? Sort of
And
under the data products, which I think is
any
speaking to
kind
some
of
of the
product,
folks.
yes.
Yeah.
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 So
I think
any
this is
kind of these
great.
data products. Mhm.
Yeah. Thank you for showing us this. Yeah.
No, thank you
So
for being able to show it.
when you go into these enterprises, how do you onboard them? Do they give you like a big spreadsheet, or do you running learning sessions? Say, okay, now stop putting stuff in the spreadsheets, and now let's start
Yeah.
using Mindfuel.
Yeah.
Implementation
Um,
is like.
this is the typical way, yes. So in the first step, we typically replace the use case spreadsheet. Oh, we typically replace the, let's say, non-structured data formats. Some of our customers have that in Excel, Miro, Trello, Confluence, Word documents. So they have description of use cases in Word documents listed. So we are typically trying to transform, or sorry, to replace these these tools and making unstructured data structured. Because if you have it in Confluence, it's just text, right? If you have it in Delight, there's a flexible data model behind it. You can start modeling, you can start visualizing, predicting. For this, we have value acceleration services. So we don't throw these enterprises just Delight over the fence and say, good luck with that. These enterprises typically need adoption support. So we have a full structured process from our value acceleration team. I mean, this is, I think, state of the art today from professional B2B enterprise software vendors, right? We know big platform providers like Palantir or all these kind of technologies, they provide acceleration services with it. So do we. And the best step to start is, this is my Access spreadsheet of all my use cases. I would like to visualize it. I would like to take it into Delight to put an active management around that. And from there, then we importing the assets, or we connecting to infrastructures, or different ways to integrate them.
Got it. Okay. Very cool. And then one more question about the product, and then for the
Mhm.
remaining time, I want to actually ask you some questions about being a founder and leading a team.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
we have folks watching this who are
Mhm.
building or also thinking about starting something. Is Do you ever see organizations, perhaps not today, because they're still sort of on that
Mhm.
journey of using
Mhm.
field to help them
Mhm.
progress in this AI
Mhm.
journey. Do you ever see this this platform sort of as measurements and benchmark and say, look, I said it's 14 million return on investment, but now that the project's finished and we actually see either 20 or 10, and
Hmm.
you'll be
Hmm.
able to kind of come back retroactively and also learn what worked well, what didn't work well, and then be able to
Hmm.
funnel those learnings into new projects.
Yeah, I mean, this is a okay, this is a very good question because so number one, everyone aims for value measurement. So whenever we talk to organizations, they say a measurement would be what we need. And my second question is then, okay, how are you measuring today? Because the best thing would be we replace what you have. And then we find out that nobody is measuring. And don't get me wrong, but they all aiming for measurement, but the process to do it is a transformational process. You
Right.
have to start building a process, like a business process,
Yeah.
to be able to measure. And we have ideas how we will solve that. So it's also in our roadmap and we have ambitions, but everyone is doing it differently today. There is no standard process around how to do measurement. So we have examples in our customer portfolio where they are closely working together with controlling, where controlling has to sign off this value potential. And
Hmm.
then controlling is tracking it. This is one option. We have other organizations, they say, you know what, we don't want to use the value potential function for now. We don't want to use it at all. We just want to use the value score. So a second criteria in Delight is that you're just putting a score in there where you have business impact as a dimension because we don't know how to measure and
Right.
it consumes overhead for us. So what I want to say here is um, we truly believe that measurement is the future. We also truly believe that companies have to do that one day, because if you want to justify really the impact and also deriving new projects and all of that stuff, you need to measure. We accompanying our customers in establishing a measurement process if they want. So we are providing this as a service, and we typically then integrating different business functions in there. So controlling is typically involved, um, the budgeting or resourcing environment, which is providing budgets, funds, or whatever is involved, where the money is coming from. Most often, it's the CFO department or the head of the department who's providing the budget. So, long story short, measurement is a vision.
Yeah.
And not because I stated that way, but because nobody has established a measurement process in the market yet, where I would say, okay, they are super advanced, maybe except for super digital tech players. I don't know if Amazon, maybe they have it, but traditional enterprise organizations like major insurances or automotive industry, I haven't seen anything yet, but I
Yeah.
might be
And
wrong.
I appreciate that view. And that's the reason I asked. I think to speak as someone who have worked in these large enterprises and push to projects. Number one, it's just said there's not a lot of baselines that exist for adoption of new emerging technologies. And I think number two, just as you show in the demo, it's not trivial to build business cases, right? The co-pilots and things that you have created, among others, are recent development, and it actually takes a lot of time to teach financial analysts and corporate finance teams to help build business cases that are rigorous and drive to a return on investment. And it's also very much a multi-departmental exercise. And I think third, what I appreciate what you said, which is, some companies are like, we just don't know how to measure yet. And so you don't need to, I actually like that is, don't measure for the sake of measuring, but using these platforms in an agile way to accelerate their efforts in adopting machine learning, AI with data assets and products as you showed underpinning that, to do it rigorously and to do it in the right way.
I mean, just one last sentence to that. You said it perfectly, not measuring for the sake of measurement. At the end of the day, our job is to contribute value. And the question is, how do we identify this value? And
Yeah.
if we just have a value score in Delight and I can prioritize the right five opportunities And then I can measure at the end in sales or in marketing or whatever, how much more cars we have sold or how much more customers we have converted or how much churn we have reduced. Then this is the value how we also honor ourselves or how we reward ourselves in the data team because the business has been successful and this is our main job.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, in the last few minutes, I want to turn to talking about being a founder and CEO. It is incredibly challenging and thrilling to lead a startup. It's nonstop, right? Entrepreneurship is hard. I've written about that, and you have to keep going. And you're selling also into the largest enterprises, so it's not like they're just gonna buy tomorrow. And so how do you lead? What advice would you give you to other CEOs and founders who are building really interesting companies?
Oh, this is a good, very good question. I had to explore different leadership styles in the last 3 years now. Be prepared for the unexpected. It would be my best advice at the moment. There are a lot of surprises around the corner these days from the market, from the customers, from employees. I think my greatest learning also from, I mean, we are talking 2 or 3 days before Christmas, so I'm in the reflection time anyway. I think my greatest learning is you cannot please everyone. And as a startup, you typically try to. You try to please customers, you try to please advisors, you try to please investors somehow. Like you always, as a CEO, you. So I have the principle of a servant leadership style, right? So I always try to make the best out of everyone. I'm a deal maker guy. I always try to make win-win. I try to create win-win situations for people who invest into Mindfuel. I want to make them successful. I want to make them I want them to earn the money they are because they're giving me the money and they this is a risk for them and I want to fulfill on that journey and on that mission. So shareholder value means a lot to me, but at the end of the day, you need a clear goal and a clear strategy. And this clear goal and strategy not always serves and pleases everyone. Like think about your product roadmap. You get when you have customers, they have a lot, 1 trillion requests what you could improve. You need your focus, you need your roadmap, you need your strategy, how to solve that. And if this works out, then the outcome will be a good result for your stakeholders, any kind of stakeholders. And this is what I had to learn from my point of view in this year as we have launched in different markets, as we have won new customers. I mean, when you work with major enterprises, you are the small one, right? You are the
Yep.
David and they are the Goliath. So, but still, David won at the end. So we have to make sure that whenever it comes to contracting, whenever it comes to legal documents, there's so many moments where you have to show that that you are a company and you are a player and you have to hold up to that, yeah. And
I
then
love
it works.
that. Yeah, I love that. I love these reflection moments, and I think you're absolutely right. Well, Nadeem, it's such a pleasure to catch up and allow, I think, more people to see what you're building. And thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you very much for having me, Joyce. It's been a really an honor actually to talk to you. And whenever you need something or whenever I can do something, please do not hesitate to get back to me at any time. Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah.